Okay. And Nick, I'm sorry for leaving you out there before.
Okay.
I'm really sorry. Sorry, Nick and I had a chat before we started, so when we went into it, I just sort of jumped in and didn't realise that the rest of you, of course, didn't hear that chat that we had before. So, okay.
I know that you know a lot about Dara, Kathy, but what about you introduce yourself, Dara, as well?
Absolutely. Go for it, Dara.
Hi, I'm Dara. I'm based in Brisbane. Obviously, Kathy is my mum, but I do marketing for BSA People Skills. Yeah, what have I done today? I've actually had a really busy couple of weeks, so I've been a little bit more chill today, which has been quite nice. I needed it. But yeah, that's me.
Fantastic. And Dara's also setting up his own business as well in terms of own stuff around fashion, aren't you? So that'll be really cool to watch the growth of that. So about 20 minutes and then all your questions for John straight after that. Okay. So over to you, John.
Thank you. Yes, well, I think the questions, I'd be more interested in a kind of a discussion and comments, since I'm not the last word on yes and no, in fact. But even just today, I've also been at my desk all day, and I had an email from somebody. I'm not sure. I was going to try and bring it up very quickly, but he said, "My dog is day 7 of the lockdown. My dog is looking at me and saying, 'Now do you understand why I chew the furniture?'" But I don't have any time at all to chew the furniture or look at Netflix or any other things. Life seems to have got busier in the lockdown rather than not. So I can't even remember what I did this morning. Oh, I slept in. That's right. No wonder I can't remember what I did this morning. But I've been promoting my work. I've got face-to-face training, and I about 6 years ago developed an online program. And so my current enthusiasm is marketing this to veterinarians in the US. So I tailored it to them, and I've been doing quite a bit of work setting that up and ClickFunnels. Has anybody heard of ClickFunnels? Oh yeah, cool. Do you use them, Lance? Do you use ClickFunnels, or you've just heard of it?
I did for a while, but Joe's moved us all across to a platform called Kajabi. So similar principles.
Similar kind of thing, yeah, right. And Joe, I might actually need to talk to you sometime, because my VA, I did talk to one of your people about using your services, and ended up going with an individual who's now taken a job and having her second baby next month. But in the meantime...
Yeah, more than happy to chat.
So I've been thinking, now, and Kathy's told me how good you are as an organisation, and so that's another thing. And this afternoon I was talking to the HR or the something manager at the SPCA, and have been able to offer my my online program to all of their employees and volunteers, 4,500 at no cost, which is really part of saying yes to these opportunities and getting a message out there. But for me, I was thinking about this partly when Kathy asked me to speak. I was thinking about Bangladesh at the time, because that's our main connection, or that's where we really got going. When and in fact, I met. I was at the NZATD, the Association of Training Development meeting, about 7 or 8 years ago, and there was a guy there, and I'd never seen him before. He looked different, and it turned out he was from Bangladesh. And he said to me, "What do you do?" I said, I teach people to manage emotions in the workplace." And he said, "Oh, that would go down really well in Bangladesh. We need that. Would you come and do it?" And I immediately said yes. And then I said, "Well, we probably should meet and have coffee and discuss it a little bit and work out something." And then so we did. And then we were marketing my first visit, my what I thought would be the only visit. I'd go there and come back. and be able to say, yeah, I've been to Bangladesh, and how cool is that? And he said, we're doing all this work for marketing. We really should get some other programs as well, because we're getting interest from people about it. And I just kept saying yes to him, and we met over a period of several months. He was living here in Wellington at the time, and developed this. And then my criteria really for employing people to go over there, as Kathy pointed out, she turned up at this same meeting a couple of years later, the AGM. I think it was the AGM, or he turned up to a meeting anyway, and I said to her, well, would you like to come? Hello, my name is John. Would you come to Bangladesh? Would you like to train in Bangladesh? And she said, yes. And how many times have you been now, Kathy? 3, is it, or 4? Hey, you have to put your thingy up. You're on mute. You have to put your hand up or speak.
Yeah, no, I've been 4 times now.
4
and
times.
it was the most bizarre meeting, because literally I met John, and next minute I'm meeting Ahmed, and, you know, hi Kathy, would you like to go to Bangladesh? Sounds great, tell me more. And yeah, that was an amazing beginning.
So that got me thinking really about saying yes and saying no. My own history, my background, my original, well, when I left school, I was a VSA school leaver volunteer in Tonga, and had a very strong pull, really, if not a push, to do that when I was still at school. And I remember it very vividly, where 400 people applied and they only were choosing 40 at the time. I know Sarah's father also went on VSA around that time, and his partner, I was going to say his current partner, I don't know, but his partner, she also went on it. But it was and then when I came back, I went and trained for Catholic priesthood, and did 8 years of training and about 11 years as an ordained priest. And saying yes to that was a very big deal. And also saying no to it was, after 19 years, when it was time to move on. But even more importantly, during that time, I started training in psychodrama, and I really wanted to crack that, really learn how to do it properly. And I remember a lot of people saying to me, come and do this. There's all these workshops that were going on, not psychodrama ones, but there's TA, and there's all sorts of other modalities that were offering training. And I do remember making a very conscious decision not to say yes to those, to say no to them, because I wanted only to put my time into training in this one methodology. Hello, Susan, how are you?
Hello, am I on mute? No, I'm
Not you.
no, good, I finally got in. Nice to be here.
Cheers, Susan. Welcome.
Cheers. Thank you. Sorry for interrupting you mid-flow. John, carry on.
Not at all. Well, back in the day, we're actually about the time were you actually at Canterbury University, Susan?
Yeah, in the early to mid-80s.
Yeah. So I was actually a university chaplain, and I think that's where we first came in contact with each other.
It was indeed, it was.
And at that time I was doing psychodrama training, but I remember having, if I was going to finish this and pass and really learn this, I needed to say no to a lot of things and yes to that. And the same with doing my master's. You know, to achieve these things, I realized there was a lot of saying no, a lot of saying yes, and a lot of saying no. So that you know, just in reflection, really setting up the background, really, or setting up the foundation of what I was doing. After leaving that life, I've did a number of jobs, and then ended up. I was a psychodramatist actually at Queen Mary Hospital for 5 years, and running the program there as recovery for the drug and alcohol rehabilitation. Some of you might not know what Queen Mary was. It's all closed down now. but when that closed, that's when I went into business, and I was always an entrepreneur, actually, from birth. My family laugh at me because my first job was when I was 4 years old. I was holding the reins on the milk cart. Back in the day, they used to deliver milk door to door, which is sort of, for some people, is extraordinary enough, but they even did it with horses and carts. I am quite old, even though I look very young, and etc. But anyhow, that was me at 4 years old, and I worked for the same guy until I was 12, and then he stopped delivering milk. He had a truck by that stage, and I did through my teenage years delivered a lot of milk in the middle of the night. But I realized that I was an entrepreneur all the time, and which made me very unsuitable for being a Catholic priest, especially in the order that I was in. But since setting up my own business about 20 years ago, I have noticed the tendency, and really there's just so many things to say yes to. And this, I think, is one of the real challenges, because by nature, entrepreneurs are looking for opportunities. And what can I do? And shiny little objects that flicker past your face are so attractive. And I think of the things that I have said yes to and really focused on was, in fact, this program and this brand that I created from one program. But when I first started out, I was doing everything. Anything anybody asked me to do, I could train in it. And that took a huge amount of energy. I found myself working, up to 1 or 2 a.m. the night before a workshop preparing for it. And after a bit, I realized that was not such a good idea. But when I worked out that what I was good at was teaching people to manage emotions in the workplace, then that helped me it took an awful lot of pressure away. And that's also when I realized I needed to say no. I have a very good friend actually in Christchurch, and he was the first person who employed me to run some workshops for his company. He had a company of a wholesaling business. I employed about 20 people, and I used to go down there every month and run general workshops for them and about managing things, and to help me work out a lot of ideas. But I got to a point, particularly when, I'd been in Europe. We went to Europe for 6 weeks and had a nice time, and came back and realized my business had kind of gone down. I'd lost all my contacts, and how do I get business again? That's when I needed to find a niche. And realizing that I'd been looking for this, a lot of people were saying what you need is a niche in business. You need to be really focused. And I didn't know what it was that I could focus on until I came back and realized that my focus was actually right in front of my nose, because this is what I've been doing all my life, this emotional intelligence kind of training. And so I needed then to say no. And my friend in Christchurch, I said to him, I'm not going to come and work with your company anymore, because I want to focus just on doing this one thing. And so probably the last 15 years, I've been only doing this. I developed the brand, and then I made the program a lot more refined. That's led me to write a book about this work. And then the next step after the book was developing the online program, which is 4 modules, about a 2-hour program, plus or minus. But all through that, I've needed to say no to a lot of things. Now, this hasn't all been plain sailing, because in fact, I did say yes to a whole bunch of things, including buying a commercial property and running a training venue that people could hire, which just took a huge amount of energy out of my life. And as you know, I think now slowed me down a lot. I was a trainer in the Psychodrama Institute in Wellington, And that required, I realized, for very little income over a year, 28 days, which earned me, well, I had to pay for a lot of my own training and ongoing stuff, so probably overall it cost me, including training 10 weekend days a year. So there's a whole bunch of things like that I said yes to that did hold me back. And getting to a point of being able to say no to those and letting them go, even though people would be disappointed in me, was has been sort of one of the hardest things. But I realized, just in retrospect at least, how important it has been to say no. So now I still do get a bit hooked, but I don't get hooked into the really big things of saying yes. I know the yes mistakes that I've made, if you like to put it like that. So, saying yes to those, I shouldn't ought to have done that. That took a lot of energy. That was a way, I could list quite a few. However, I am an uncontrollable optimist. So I also look at those things and say, well, that was all part of my learning. And so it has built me to be the person I am. So that's part of that. I don't want to live with regrets and say should never have ought to have done that. But the things I've said no to, I've got no idea what I missed out on. Not that I dwell on them, although if I had said yes somewhere, I may well be by this stage a millionaire. But I suppose I am a millionaire already in some respects. Well, I've got over $1 million worth of mortgage. I think that makes me a millionaire. So yeah, saying yes to things and saying no has been a really important part of my journey, and just sort of reflecting on it. And what I'm interested in, why I particularly share this with you, is to spark off these ideas in yourself, what you've said yes to, what you've said no to. Maybe there are some things even now that you need to say no to, so that you can focus a bit more on exactly what you're doing. And so that's about it really. And the yes, the yeses that I've done and really stuck with, particularly the online program, I'm just sort of really enjoying this now, because I've got this program. I've contacted a whole lot of my clients that I've worked with over the last 10 years, and saying, look, here's a lockdown opportunity for training. And two of them got back to me today and said, yeah, we'd love to take you up on that. So I can, and the great thing about online stuff, Alana, you might, as you're starting out on this, is you realize that some of it is just click, you're going to still do the same work, but so you can offer, a whole variety of pricing for it. And partly also even saying, as I'm saying to the SPCA, you can have this for nothing, for 4,500 people. And basically the work for me is just click, but the benefit is huge. And then to other people, I can say this is worth $497. And they say, gee, that's a bargain. And so, between nothing and 497 per person. So saying yes to online and digital, it's got to be the way to go. And I don't think we're going to get back to a lot of traditional work, not very quickly anyway. So that's pretty much how, there were a few other things. What have I done? Oh, some of the other yeses that I've done. I bet I mentioned this, getting married. Oh, that was a great yes. And it still is. And it's one that I like to do, even repeat every day. And so that's been a really good one. And then saying no, well, I certainly don't. I say no to anything really big. that's coming up. And sometimes I wished I'd said no to Bangladesh, and other times I'm really glad I didn't, because again, for me, I've been there maybe 12 times now. And I've provided, it's wonderful that Susan's been there, Lisa's been there, Sarah's been there, Kathy's been there. And so it's lovely to see you all. And it's a fantastic thing saying yes to something like that. It's just completely off the planet. Well, it's at the other side of the planet. But, so that to me is pretty much what I've been thinking about, yes and no, and I invite you to think about your yes and no moments, and maybe even say, thinking of what you've said no to and what you really want to say yes to, particularly when there's lots of shiny, sparkly things that you can jump on and have a go at. Sarah, you're good at that, aren't you? I can just see.
Yeah, totally. Oh, a new shiny. It's so exciting. I get to start something. Oh, I haven't finished other things. Yeah, I need to practice this.
It's interesting, John, you talked about the fear when you started saying no to different and when you said, yes, I'm going to do this TUF and concentrate just on that, because when we start something new like that, we don't necessarily know. And I know that was the same for me when I started my business. I mean, I started this business with no customers, no clients. I didn't have a clue. I knew nothing except the content of what I did, and this real deep passion and desire to make change in the world. And that was what I started with, and that was my yes. And saying no to anything else in my life that was giving me money at the time was pretty jolly scary. But you look back on those moments and you just think, wow, really? Do you have a particular criteria John, when you're thinking about saying yes or saying no to a particular thing? Do you have a criteria around why you'd say yes or why you would say no? You mentioned in there about energy being one of them.
Yeah.
But there was a range of things, a range of factors for you, I think.
I think the way I make decisions in terms of Myers-Briggs, Susan, you'll be being ENFP, so feeling was very strong on me for making decisions. I'm not quite, I don't kind of think it through so logically, although I do to some degree, but much more I just get this feeling that's not going to work. This is going to work. So trusting really what I feel and just go, I've had enough of this, or, this is just not working. But again, because I've always been a pleaser and, wanted to help people, and I still do, that makes saying no much more difficult, because I will be disappointing people. And that's been huge right through my life.
How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that when you're saying no to something that you know isn't right for you and is not part of the journey that you've got ahead of you? How do you deal with that and say the no anyway?
Well, I've spent a lot of time reflecting on it, and maybe I talk to people. I do have continuous supervision, and I have done since really I started training in psychodrama in the 80s. And so that's now 30 plus years where I have supervision. At least now it's monthly, but it used to be weekly. So dealing with that process, and I mean, one of the biggest ones for me was actually leaving the priesthood. Just it was such a public position to be in, and my family, but everybody that I'd worked with was going to be disappointed. So being able to go back and say, well, I survived that, and actually it's that's been very good for me, and probably good for a lot of other people that I made that decision. And so making some decisions, looking back at where it has worked is very useful. And I think that's true for any kind of getting through this current lockdown thing for a lot of people is looking and saying, well, I have survived other things in the past, I can survive this.
And I think the more that we get to know ourselves, and to know what we're meant to be doing, we can stay in a job to please other people, but we're not doing ourselves, and we're not doing them any favours in the long run. And if we can talk to ourselves about that sort of stuff and remind ourselves that everybody is replaceable in a particular role, and if we're doing it just to please somebody else, then actually we're not doing ourselves nor them a service.
Yes. Now, Lisa, is your question to me about what kind of supervision, or you're asking others what is for me particularly? Well, originally we call it clinical supervision, but given that I'm not working clinically anymore as a psychodramatist, I just the person I've been seeing most recently, who's about to retire, he's only 83. I don't know why he wants to retire, but he's
no.
Damn him. He's been very good. Gordon Hewitt is his name. He's a psychotherapist, and mostly I've gone to people who've been in that realm, but that they understand some aspects of business, and they're not strictly psychotherapy. It's not psychotherapy. But basically I go there and I say, these are the things that are happening in my life. These are the moments where I get stuck. Occasionally it's with a group, but I've done enough group work now, and it's not kind of deep work, so that I don't need a lot of, in that sense, the clinical stuff. But it's a chance for me just to review what I've been doing in the last month, what the problems are coming up, whether it's some issues even just in terms of relationship at home and things, or what I'm thinking about my business, where my energy is, what's causing me to have a lot of energy and what's causing me not. Sometimes it ends up even going back, and I've become aware of some kind of childhood issue that is now interfering with what I'm trying to do with my work. So that's the kind of supervision that I have, and I can live without my teddy bear, but I couldn't live without that.
It's like for many people in the business world, it's your business coach or an advisory board or somebody like that to be able to go and check those decisions against, isn't it? And but in teaching world and it's just a different terminology, isn't it? You've got supervision or coaching or mentoring or all of those words, but it's that person to be able to bounce those ideas off and to be able to bring that bigger picture of the issues that you're facing, because as entrepreneurs in business, we bring our whole selves to it, don't we? So we need to be able to talk about all of those things, just as you've described in that job.
Yeah, I mean, I've had business coaches and people that I've really spoken a lot about business. But for me, I guess my training as a psychodramatist and working really intensely at the sort of an emotional level, that's what my valency is. So for me, the supervision is much more personal. And the business coaches that I've had, I wouldn't share some of these things with. So I'm really strong on, most of the problems arise because of what's happening inside here. I mean, there are still the things that you're saying, Kathy, and it's very important. And partly why I'm not, a multimillionaire now is that I haven't used business coaches quite the same. And I know how you use them, Kathy, and, I'm in awe of that. And I think it's great. For me now, my business is a bit more of a lifestyle business, even though I'm going hard at it and want this thing to work in the States, and elsewhere. But that's still kind of a lifestyle thing for me. And it's a point of, there is a yes-no moment really of this, to say, do I really want to build this business and make it big and mega and all the rest of it? No, I'd rather have Joe do a whole lot of work. You can get a whole lot of stuff done, Joe. And, I'll pay you for it. And I don't want to. Let's just keep things, go. I mean, I want to increase a wee bit because.
And that's about being able to identify the areas that you're that you're wanting to put your energy into it as well. And so there's a yes, no, isn't it? In terms of who am I going to pay? How much am I willing to pay for all of these things? And John, another thing, you've got Lance here on this call. He is the best business coach out in terms of being able to engage in that personal level and have that, bring all of that stuff into his business coaching. So I highly recommend Lance, who's here on the call as well. Okay, next question.
Good.
Who's next?
I remember having this lecturer in the seminary, and he was very precise, and he used to say, question zone is now open.
The question zone is now open.
And then after a bit, he said, question zone is now closed. But anyway, question zone is open. Any comments or thoughts?
John, I've got a question. Hi there. I'm just wondering, have you ever had any moments where you've said no to something and later on thought, you know, wow, I actually wish I'd said yes?
Yeah, I've thought of that. In fact, when I was thinking of this, I wrote a few notes, you know, and I went, well, actually with no, you don't actually know what you know hasn't led to. And so, although I do say no, I think of saying no to being a priest, and I go to funerals and a few things, you know, to see some of my old colleagues, and I go, geez, that was good. That was a good no, that one was. Oh, I could be with those guys now, and that would it just wouldn't be good for me at all. It wouldn't be good for anybody. So that's about the only kind of no that I really know about. But in one sense, that's a little bit about focusing on your regrets, you know. Yes, I could have started out in this business in the 20s, you know, when I had energy, and I could have built an empire, and I could have whatever. But I didn't, you know, and I've got to my point in life. In fact, I did make this decision when I was 18. I remember saying that I won't regret anything that I've already done. It was a real strong decision I consciously made. And so in that sense, being comfortable with your no, you know, now I used to do that, I don't do it anymore, you know, whatever that was. And I've pretty much kept with that mostly in my life now, and think, yeah, you know, I could have been anything or could have done anything, but I didn't. Which means I'm very happy with what I am and what I have done.
That's great. Really, really, really good. Anybody else questions?
I've got one that I probably could have contacted you directly, John, and asked, but I see that you've recently branched into veterinarians, and I wondered kind of where that came from, because that's about you're on a path and then you've gone, oh, here's another part of the path I quite like, and here's another part. So, so I'm just curious, because I've also got some veterinary clients, and I think,
oh, cool.
Yeah, it might be useful. Yeah.
Well, this is one, when I got into ClickFunnels, I mentioned ClickFunnels before you came on, Susan, and part of their teaching is, you know, define your target audience as precisely as you possibly can. And I was sitting around thinking, who can I, you know, and I've never actually worked with vets, but I've worked with a lot of medical practices, and I've worked with a whole range of others. And now I'm going, who's got money and who's got problems with emotional people? Well, vets have, because the reason they become vets is because they don't like people very much. They want animals. They like animals, you know. So they, almost by nature, they don't like emotional people. And then I went, oh, that's got to be cool. And so I made that as a conscious choice about 6 months ago. It's taken me a lot of time to learn this, you know, and I've tailored my online program, so I've not completely changed it, but I've developed another version of the same online program. And then I was thinking, sell it to the States. So I'm not even really after New Zealand veterinarians, because there's only 1,200 New Zealand vets plus whatever. But in the United States, I looked up this thing, and there's, do you know how many veterinary clinics and hospitals there are in the United States? There's 126,000. Holy shit. And there's at least 10, maybe there's an average of 20 people working in them, you know. So I just need 0.1%, even less, who say, and then I will have, oof, you know, and by that stage, it's click, click. So it was a really conscious decision of saying, I'm not going to chase workshops here in New Zealand anymore. I mean, people still ask me to do them, but that was a real conscious choice of thinking who would be a good target. And this whole ClickFunnels thing, because I've got the online program, so I don't have to do an awful lot of work. But
and that's part of it, John, isn't it? That you've said yes to the huge amount of work involved in making that online program, and it must have been a huge yes at the time, to a huge commitment, if you like, at the time, to go, right, I'm going to focus all of this time and energy and all of the rest of it to create this program and write it, but now you can adapt it and so on.
The original one, well, look, none of these, I never knew how much work was involved in any of this. I just thought it'd be quite easy, you know, knock it off. You know, I'd have it up by next week, whatever. And that was right from the very start. But if I knew how much any of this was going to take, I would have got a job in an office, you know. But no, I wouldn't. It's the same with this one, you know, ClickFunnels. They go, here, you can create a funnel in 10 minutes. So this is part of their advertising. Well, 6 months later, I launched my first funnel just last week, and a huge amount of learning. And still, I employ somebody else, or several people are helping me do all sorts of things. So it's better not to know really what your yes involves sometimes, but just go for it. You're laughing. Well, lots of nods there, aren't there? You know, if you knew how much trouble this is going to be, you wouldn't have done it. But it's about the yes, I think, is keeping with it, and then saying no to other things. I'm doing this, and I think that's really what I've noticed even in these last 6 months. And I started doing this particular meditation practice each morning after at the end of the meditation. This things, look, spend the last 2 minutes. First of all, being grateful for 3 things, and then the rest of that time, sort of like imagining, while you're in this sort of a calm state, imagining what it's like when you've achieved what you're working on. And so this is what I was doing, you know, for the last 6 months, going, oh yeah, I've got this ClickFunnel going, and everybody's sort of coming. And then it was only last week I was going, oh, actually, I'm there. I've done that bit. However, I've now got to do a whole lot of work on the social media, putting it out there, and it's not just automatic going to happen. So,
and that's that power of vision, isn't it? You know,
power of vision. But I also read something just about the same time saying people who do that imagination don't actually achieve as much as people who go, here I am, I've got another freaking day ahead of me, and I've got to work really hard in order to get something. So I'm a bit conflicted about I kind of both say, yes, I can imagine what life is going to be like. I'll be on the beach, and you know, the money will come rolling in, and in fact, you know, here I am.
There you are. You're on your beach already.
This is me, you know. But if I have that mindset too much, I won't actually do the work that I need to keep doing.
I think it's also about imagining the steps that you've done to get yourself there. And
yeah.
if you can look back and say, well, this is here is me on the beach because I've done this and I've done this and I've done this and I've done this, then you can look back and go, actually, I did it all, and here I am on the beach. So yeah. One last question. Who's in for the last question?
I'll ask one, John.
What's been your biggest yes and what's been your biggest no? Let's just finish with a quick round of that.
Joe, have you got one question before then? Joe?
I have maybe a quick one for you because I can't get my head around this conflict between entrepreneurship and being a priest. So
and what's this, entrepreneurship and what?
And becoming a priest.
Oh.
So why did you become a priest? Like, what was the decision there for you?
It was an entrepreneurial drive. I wanted to create stuff for the world. I wanted to do all this fantastic stuff, you know, and that was a particular vehicle that I could do it with. So it wasn't about sort of shutting down or doing anything. It was the same as what I'm doing now, opening up. It was a fantastic opportunity at the time. It was way back, probably before you were born, Joe, 1971, and but that was what was available, you know, and that was a path where I mean, the system actually was meant to kind of narrow me and put me in there, but I just kept breaking out of it and doing all of that. Yeah.
Thank you.
It was fun. It was a bit distressing for the people around me, but the ones in charge of me at the time.
Cool. Okie dokie. Your biggest yes and no was what John wanted to know. What was your biggest yes? Who's first on that one? Lance, what was your biggest yes?
Biggest yes.
Marrying me.
From there,
Yeah, I was going to go there, but that's obvious. It's my biggest, most recent.
Yep.
In terms of changing life, it was stepping out of the golden handcuffs. I was in a very well-paid IT job, not too dissimilar to you, Kathy, in terms of walking away from a very, very good income to start something that I had very limited experience in, and that was 17 years ago now. And it's yeah, I've done pretty well out of it, so it's pretty good.
Cool.
But then the no, well, there's been a few, but from a business perspective, there were two. One was saying no, this franchise that we launched and we were growing isn't working. We don't want to do this anymore. We're turning it off. Huge expense and a lot of effort to undo it, but very much the right call. And the other one was, someone mentioned it, or you mentioned it earlier, was we narrowed our market and our, we were trying to be all things to all people, of businesses of all sizes, and it was pretty scary to say, actually, no, we're not looking after businesses below this threshold. We're actually going to explicitly turn that off. That was a pretty scary thing to say no to. And all it did was improve our business. So yeah, some of those no's are very, very valuable.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Morris, what's your biggest yes and no?
Probably biggest yes is doing what I'm doing, because there was a whole bunch of background and reasons that I did it. So I think that's been a good thing to do. Personally, probably not commercially, but then again, I made the decision also on a no. I did some things in the corporate world, and I was invited to go and work, asked to join McKinsey, be one of their consultants, and I nearly did because it was hugely well paying and a lot of credibility. Then I looked around at those people, I decided I didn't want to be like them, so no, I didn't. No, I did this instead. Earned about as 10th a month, worked twice as hard, but it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, fantastic. A couple more people sharing, because I know that we're close to end of time here. So, and I know Nick wants to be able to finish off. So a couple more people being able to share their biggest yes and biggest no.
Yeah, I can do mine, Kathy.
Yeah, sure. Go, Joe.
Mine won't be a surprise to you. My biggest yes is leaving my nice, safe, secure role in a corporate and starting a business when I had my son. And my biggest no was actually splitting with my business partner and taking over the business on my own. So saying no to that relationship was tough, but a really good decision. Happy with both of those.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. One more. Biggest yes, biggest no.
My biggest yes was moving to New Zealand. We completely changed our life. We decided to say yes to the unknown, the skydive without a parachute. We found our parachute with lots of people here to support us so that we didn't crash land. but it was a huge hurdle, huge jump, a leap of faith, and I'm so glad we did it. And the no's, they just flitter away.
Living in the present and in the future. Sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. Well, over to you, Nick.
Okay, well, a couple of things. For me, actually, my biggest no was turning my back on. I trained as a lawyer and did the 5 years of a law degree, and then turned my back on a legal career. My biggest yes probably happened about 10 years ago when I was in business, the current business that I'm in now, which is a company called Clued Up, which is a corporate team building and performance company. My business partner left, and I was faced with the decision: do I carry on or do I exit? And I decided to carry on, and that was my biggest yes. So yeah, we've got a couple more minutes. So what I'd like to do is just quickly share with you a couple of things. Am I able to share my screen, Kathy? Hopefully I can.
Yes, you should be able to.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to let people know, those of you probably aware, this is the Entrepreneurs Social, which is the Wellington branch of the Entrepreneurs Institute, and the Entrepreneurs Institute is the world's largest global entrepreneur movement. And just wanted to share with you a couple of things that the Institute's up to at the moment that are pretty exciting. Which is called Boost Your Health, Beat the Virus. This is a free webinar which is going right around the world, 9 a.m. Singapore time, which I think is about 1 p.m. New Zealand time on Monday. So it's a really good time. And this is a free webinar which the Institute's running through the team there. And it's some great tips and information about how to boost your health and beat the virus. So that would be a really good thing to jump onto if you're really interested into that opportunity. The other thing that the Entrepreneurs Institute is running at the moment is this incredible course, which is called the Cash Flow Crash Course. It's been running for a number of weeks now. It's led by Roger James Hamilton, who is the founder and the brains behind the Institute. And I've been working on this course for the last 2 or 3 weeks. I think you're on it too, Kathy. And if you want to get some really to-the-minute information about what's going on globally at the moment, and some really insightful information about ways to get your business ahead and get your business cranking in this environment, that's a really good course to join. Really encourage you to do that. I'm getting a huge amount of value out of that myself. The impact test, I shared that with a few of those of you that were at the course, the first session we ran last week. This is a free test that is available again through the Institute. You just go to you see the URL there, the impact test, geniusu.com. Free test, and this is amazing. It gives you a insight into where you are as an entrepreneur on the levels there, and for your entrepreneur level and also your impact level, and you see where your organization is at, where you're at yourself, and from there it gives you some really awesome steps that you can follow. It's all free information, all free available. Yeah, which is the in here is the.
You sounds funny.
Insight. Can you hear me right?
No. Can you repeat what you just said there?
Oh, I was just saying that Genius U is the online platform for the Institute, and the micro degrees there are a great source. You can do free online in your own time that, for example, take you through the steps of how to move your business up through the various. For example, your enterprise landed at one of these levels, say the level 2 enterprise. You can take a course here that teaches you the steps of how to move your business up through the levels. So really awesome wealth of great information here, which is available through the Genius U platform. And Kathy mentioned at the beginning of the call, our Facebook page. I really invite you to jump onto our Facebook page. Let us know that you're here, what value you're getting from tonight's call, and there you go. I've added in a bit of information there myself. So please jump on there and let us know that you're here, and this is where we'll be sharing information about these socials and things. So that's just a little bit about what's going on in the wider community for the Institute. Invite you to check it out. If you'd like to find out a little bit more information about how you can get engaged with this information, both me and Kathy will be sending out, there'll be an email that will be coming out to you after this call with our calendar links, and you can jump on a call with either of us, and we can take you through some of the, in a bit more detail, some of the information that you can access here through this awesome movement and through the Entrepreneurs Institute, which is great source of really up to the minute and practical advice about how to grow your business and on your entrepreneur journey, which has been awesome for me, and I know Kathy's really invested in it too in terms of the value you can get out of it.
And it's when you're talking about that up to the minute stuff, Nick, it's Dara's been learning marketing, and this isn't in the textbooks that were written in 2019. He is absolutely and utterly up to the minute in terms of the new ways of marketing and developing business. So absolutely. It's incredible learning. Yeah, so look out for our email, everybody. And John, I want to say thank you so much for talking tonight. It's been really great hearing your stories, hearing those moments and the impacts that those have made on your life. And I love that way that you decided way back then not to live with any regrets and just to keep focused on the future and where you're going from there. So thank you so much for that. Have a great month, everybody. Our next social will be we're on every second Thursday, the second Thursday of every month, and they're booked right through till the end of the year. So same time, same bat channel. Keep looking out for the links on that Entrepreneur Social page and through Eventbrite. And next month, we've got the amazing Paulina Roach, and she will be talking. And the following month, we have the amazing Jo Jensen. So there we go. So thank you very, very much, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Kathy.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you all. Have a good day.
See you.
Nice to meet you all. Thanks very much. See you next month.
See you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Well done.
And to just you and me, I'll turn the recording off.
Okay.